Hello, everybody. Welcome to Dean's Crypto Space and Metaverse. So, good morning, afternoon, good evening, everyone. Today is Wednesday, 6th of October, and I think I am just about managing doing the video about once a week. And I often think I should do more and should do something more complicated in terms of showing my screen and explaining what the market is going if I'm still following the market and everything else. But I always sort of doing this in a bit of a rush without actually learning more about how I could explore different technology. And I have been busy on a few things, in which one is my probably the first NFT project. I have actually started drawing some time ago, and I have a sort of some thoughts in terms of how people's view on Bitcoin, especially on an international scope and different countries' attitude. And that drawing has gone a little bit political. And a friend of and a colleague of mine reminded me to sort of take extra care of what I say and how I express myself. And I took his advice, and I think I should step back and just sort of look over, taking a bit more broader view on how different country look at the cryptos and the blockchain from different aspects, and try to avoid too much politics. So I then moved on to my second um, idea of my project, um, and that's a story I would like to share today. Is about, I would say, personal identity, but a lot more also about cultural similarity and differences. And here's the story. So a few years ago, when I was traveling in Barcelona on my own, I graduated from a degree, and I had limited money. I was traveling in Barcelona, Spain, for a few days, and at the time I was doing some travel research online, and apparently I find that there are a lot of tourists from East Asia traveling in Barcelona. Anyway, I was on my own backpacking, staying in hostels, and I came across with many different people from different countries. But two of them were Japanese that um, one I bumped into on a tube, and there was this girl. She came up to speak Japanese to me, blah blah blah, and then I said, "I'm so sorry, I'm Chinese, but hi, happy to have a chat." And the other lady was I think, photographer. She dressed up really in a funky style, and she was photographing something with her tripod set up in a square somewhere, somewhere in the middle of Barcelona. I can't remember where exactly it was, and she hardly speak any English. And she came up to me. I had a camera with me, and she started to speak all the Japanese, and I can, hear, maybe understand, no more than 5 words. So I started to speak English, and then she struggled with her English because she can hardly speak any English. And for some funny reason, we communicated for over an hour in that square and sharing the photos as well. And I think photo probably helped with what we tried to say to each other. Now I recall what happened there. I just thought it's quite funny. God knows what we were trying to say and how much we understood each other. Um, but and and that's that. And I'm in UK for more than 10 years, I I haven't really came across with too many Japanese people. I was once working in a shop of my friends who they have a shop that called Rouge, which is a French name of red. But she's Chinese, and she sells a lot of authentic, some of antique, some are new, very nice, well designed. Some are from China, some from Japan or Korea, some from different countries. But all of the products that she sell in the shop are, having different authenticity in terms of the design, looking quite colorful and so on. I think she's probably studied fashion back in university. Anyway, and in that shop, it was a very interesting mix. The shop is in Stoke Newington in East London, and it is a very mixed shop in terms of, okay, she's Chinese. She had a partner who was an Englishman. Unfortunately, he passed away 2 years ago, and then they hired a few staff, and they hired me for a few days before Christmas when they got extra busy. So I went there helping out. They previously had a lady from Hong Kong. Um, and then they have a long-term staff, two long-term staff. One is the Japanese girl, and the other one is South Korean lady. So it's a very interesting mix of women from East Asia, but also guys from UK and so on. Um, and I hardly came across with many Japanese friends. I would love to, and it's just really interesting. I didn't really sort of notice it until more recently about how this actually sort of a challenge, or in a way make me think of personal identity, because when you get mistaken by a lot of people thinking you are from another nation, have another nationality, how do you explain yourself like you're in fact from another country, blah blah. And people are always very offending themselves, like, oh, but you look this, or because you're wearing some such clothes, that or something else, or you just um, you just look like from that country, and as if they have a very strong argument about what they said, which was wrong. And um, and I think at a very earlier stage, I wasn't offensive or any way, but I was like, why do you think I'm, from that country, but I'm actually from this country? Um, and I think time tells when you grow up, like when you experience more stuff, especially um, when you sort of meet more people from uh, from from the UK and from all the different countries, that um, you start to understand also, while you live in this country, you learn more about how people live here, and the culture, English culture and heritage here, and how people pick up the different personal identities, as well as um, ethnicity, culture, from the media that they were able to see, either from history lessons they learned, or books they read, or whatever says in the media in terms of um, international matters that happening currently and political situations, or more of a interest point of cultural elements that interest to particular people. And these are always like a mixed, like a combination of everything that cause them to view things and view people they meet. So I think I have evolved quite a bit in the past few years. And also when the traditional Chinese costume for the Han people, so we call Hanfu, is often mistaken as kimono by many people. Um, and I was heavily promoting that Hanfu for a number of years, and now I'm still a great supporter of that. I have collected a lot of Hanfu clothes here, but also I was running a charity called UK Han Culture Association to promote that, and we organize many events. Usually, we dress up and we do certain activities, including games, appreciating flowers, or eating mooncakes, or having rice puzzles, etc., according to the Chinese lunar calendar. But to wear that traditional clothing add a lot more color on what you do, but also it made you feel very proud of being that particular nationality. And in particular, what happened in the Chinese history was um, have kind of sort of ended its life at the beginning of Qing Dynasty when the Manchu people took over as part of the history. Although the clothing was still allowed to be worn by women in the house because they're not going out to be seen, or by certain performers in theater because they needed those costumes to perform, or by people who who are dead and being buried and they can wear their ancestors' clothes. But hanfu wasn't being um, developed further in the Qing Dynasty for a whole 300-400 years. And people have the awareness from a decade ago of promoting them, of having the sort of hanfu renaissance, a revival movement. And they wanted to, it's, first of all, it's beautiful, and secondly, it represents a certain nationality, which is a large population. And thirdly, it's got so much culture and history behind it. It just speaks for itself. So, and people obviously felt the demand of having those. And I feel like one way why we had the handful revival movements was because people wanting to be recognized as who they are, or it perhaps is a way of finding who they are, rather than being judged or mistaken as something else, if you know what I mean. So, so and at the beginning, I didn't sort of think too much about Japanese kimonos. And when we were carrying on activities as the UK Hand Culture Association, we had a lot of conversation with different cultural association across the world. There's one in France, one in Germany, one in Italy, or two in Italy, one in Netherlands, and there's one in or two in Japan as well, and one in Malaysia, Australia, I think everywhere, US, Canada. And what interested me at the time was I felt that in Malaysia, the culture was quite rich because there were a lot more Chinese there, and it's, you can't probably say it's a minority, it probably is a majority, I don't know the population, but the demand is huge. And then something else interesting was the association, the Hanfu Association in Japan was quite well received in a way that because Japan has such a rich lifestyle and culture in terms of wearing kimono up until today, that um, they were very welcoming and open to the Chinese wearing the hanfu, and took an interest because the historical link and possible similarities in terms of the form and format of the clothing and pattern and color and so on and so forth. Because as we know, the clothing over history for thousands of years were representing different social class, different rules, like kings and queens were emperors were only allowed to wear certain color and so on, only because color was difficult to dye in terms of purple and stuff. Same as here, I think purple was recognized or used as a royal color because it was more difficult to dye and more rare. So the people in power obviously occupy a bit more resources. Let's put it that way. Um, and and I just thought, okay, that's some of the experience I had and stories I have. I didn't really think too much about it until more recently, when I guess when I had my Japanese princess cut. I had actually black long hair for many years, for 15 years. I had really long black hair. Um, didn't do anything with it, didn't color it, didn't straighten it or curve it. I have a natural curve. Um, until 2 years ago, I something happened in the family. Um, I started to have a big haircut, so I cut my hair short. I dyed my hair into, well, I don't know, yellow or gold sort of color. And then last year, I decided to have a haircut, and I thought, okay, I'm going to do something different. I always fancy a Japanese princess haircut, which you have a fringe and then you have a two, I don't know how you would say, this is probably part of the fringe up until half of your cheek, right? And then rest of the hair. I just fancied that. I always fancied it. I thought, okay, do you know what? I'm gonna try it. You know, my hair grows fast, and if it's not good, it will grow, and then I can have a different haircut. So I did. So that's the fringe I had up here for a whole year last year, and that's where I started to think, okay, I'm actually carrying this so-called Japanese princess haircut sort of on my head, like I'm actually visualized as that. But even without that, people think a lot of people mistakenly think I'm from Japan, and I often get asked, "Are you from Japan?" Or they just assume I'm from Japan. Um, I I went to a friend's house 2 days ago. It's my colleague's friend, and a massive house in Notting Hill, with dinner and film and movie appreciation. So quite sort of a sophisticated group of people. I went in the house, and there was this lovely lady, um, just assumed I was from Japan, and and she was very confident with it because I was wearing a hanfu, a piece of garment that is left, right, open and closing, and from Tang Dynasty, which we call Tang Yuanling Pao because the collar is round, but you actually still open like this, bit like the Y-shaped kimono type. And also because she was actually working in Japan for 3 years and Hong Kong and other places in East Asia, that she was very confident with was what she's seen. But then there obviously something that people haven't noticed. Stuff that we have been doing in terms of promoting Hanfu are obviously not heavy enough to get spread it to people to realize that actually it's not just Japanese wearing kimono. The Chinese are trying to wear Hanfu as well as and um, other national costumes. So anyway, I thought, okay, that's been quite a while since I've been experiencing that, and I just feel quite strongly about it, um, and also a evolvement from how I felt at the very beginning to how I feel now. Like I'm actually, I watch Japanese TV series. I like Japanese TV and animation. I love the Ghibli studios, all the Miyazaki Hayase movies I watched, and other things. Although I haven't really picked up much of the languages, but I also have Chinese friends who are fluent in Japanese and so on. Um, and I just thought time for me to actually calm myself down and look at what speak to me and see if I could create something artistic out of that. Because Hanfu, when you dress up, you do look really nice, and kimono is beautiful. Although I've not wearing one before, but interestingly, I have so many books about kimonos. This is a book that is from Waterstone. It's called Kimono and the Color of Japan. So this is divided into color of all the kimonos. And then I've got two more books, and interestingly, given by my friends who I think got them from V&A, so Victoria and Albert Museum. I think this is probably the first one, and that's a continuous one done by same editor. So this is just called Kimono, and that's really heavy. This one is called Kimono Kyoto to Catwalk. So what I find interesting from these books are they are so kimono is a continuous piece of a type of clothes that's been worn and developed throughout history by a particular nation, and this is something we don't have in the Chinese Hanfu, because Hanfu sort of was disappeared for a few hundreds of years, and there was almost none that were preserved in a modern way. Most of them were discovered by archaeological activities from tombs and things. So it's very different, how they are developed and preserved, and what happened in history, and how people look at them. So I started to draw and paint and work on my sort of my thoughts in terms of my personal identity, but also the cultural similarity and difference between the two, but also getting viewed by a Westerner or by, can be by anyone. That doesn't have to be Westerner. And that's kind of the concept that has been taking shape for my first NFT project. So that's a story I like to share today. I've done first one. I have just finished working on my second piece, and I'm going to continue with different themes. So far, what I think that speaks to me is okay, the way I look, hanfu and kimono. I'm actually reading a book about the Japanese tea ceremony now, having had a lot of Chinese tea as well. That is something I would like to see how they speak to me and how I read them and how people perceive things. And then there are other subjects. I think calligraphy is quite interesting. To be honest, what I watched as a kid in terms of the animation would be quite interesting as well. Although how I could develop it into a piece of artwork is something quite interesting that I need to dig into. So I just wanted to talk about my thoughts of more recent work and time I've been spending on. And if you have any feedback, please do let me know, because I would love to hear what people think of they want to see via me, because everybody is unique. Yeah, and that's what I would like to talk about in terms of my title today. And I think overall the market is looking really good. I think crypto in terms of Bitcoin has gone up to, I think, 52,000. I haven't really looked for a few weeks really, because we just know that Bitcoin is going to go up, and oh gosh, 54,000. Wow. Ethereum 3,500. That's crazy. Awesome. I think all the money is gone to Bitcoin at the moment by the look of it. Um, huh. Oh, happy day for everyone. It's great. So, in terms of the NFT space, I noticed there are a few women-themed projects came up. Also, Broad Apes are still going strong. I really envy those of you who are able to go to the event end of the month, because I don't think we can sort of easily fly from UK to US, and plus I will need a visa and so on. So it's just getting complicated. But I just do look forward to what sort of game that the Broad Apes is going to come up with. I would really love to play that. So still keeping all those, just sort of just really relaxed and lay back in terms of the crypto holdings, because it's October. It's going to go up for the next few months, probably with some corrections. If you have spare money, just make sure you grab some when it's correction, and if not, just sit back and watch it, observe it. I just find it's a fascinating space, and the more people I meet on my day job and over business and other things, the more I think people shouldn't be missing crypto and NFTs. And I just stay very passionate about telling people of this subject. Hey, I can see I have two guests watching me, and one has typed, I think that's Korean, and if you could type in English, that would be appreciated. Because I was just discussing the topic today about Chinese and Japanese. And actually, just for your reference, if you can, assuming you have a really good English standard, I have a very good South Korean friend. She's she was my previous colleague, and she always gets mistaken as Chinese, and then she can speak one sentence in Chinese, and the only sentence she can speak in Chinese is 我不是中国人, which means I'm not Chinese. I just thought that's hilarious. It's so funny. Um, so no, I don't know what you typed because you typed in Korean. I'm Chinese. I'm not Japanese or Korean, but I love everyone, and I think we I think we should cherish each other's rich culture and history and try to improve together. I think that's my view. Especially, I live in the UK, and I just think, since I'm casted as ethnic minority, um, it's just bring a very different aspects of how you look at each other and how you look at things and how you're treated. And it's I think it broaden up your mind and your vision, and I think it makes you a better people, um, with with long term vision. So that's my view. So anyway, I don't know how you say your name, Yo Ming, maybe. It's a little icon says that. So thanks for being here. If you want a continuous conversation, you can follow me on Twitter or join my Discord channel. I do still have a Discord channel, although there aren't so many people at the moment, so it's quiet. But if you want to have like a one-to-one chat, then Discord is probably the best place. You can come in and we can talk. And if you are in the crypto space or fancy NFTs, then do please stay in the cycle. And Twitter is always quite busy, very good place to be. And please do follow me with my progress on my NFT. It's not going to be very fast because I'm hand drawing and painting all my work, and I will turn them into digital in some way or the other. But I think I want to keep a level of authenticity to begin with, and they're going to be like one, so they're going to be individual rather than computer generated. So they're going to probably be 5 or 10 in total for the first series, rather than 10,000 PFP, because I think there are enough people doing PFPs. They don't need one more unless I feel strongly about something I want to do. And I think as artist or art practitioner, one should always stick with what they think and how they feel, and that's the most important thing. Don't you agree? So yeah. So thanks very much for being here today, and yeah. So we can talk offline or on Twitter, and I will see you next time.